Okay, good morning, everybody. I think we're live. Welcome to this week's virtual plant clinic. My name is Bill Lester. I'm with University of Florida Extension Service here in Hernando County, Florida. And with me today is Colby Pitts. He is our Hernando County, Florida Friendly Landscape Coordinator. And Bernie, one of our master gardeners with years of experience, who was under the weather this past week, but still toughed it out to come in today to be on the clinic. That's why you're here today, right?
Absolutely. I'm going to go home when this is over.
Yeah, we may all go home and take a nap when this is over, but we are all here today to answer all of your lawn and garden questions, irrigation, trees, bushes, flowers, fruit trees, everything to the best of our ability. And if we can't figure it out, we will track down an answer for you because we work with lots and lots of smart people at the University of Florida. And before I forget it, next week we will not be on here live because next week is going to be the 4th of July. So everybody should be home either working in their gardens or cooking hot dogs on the grill or both. Not at the same time, but back to back. So no show next week. Bassem, good morning. How are you? I see that we have at least a few people on here watching us this morning. So, hey, if you have any questions, just please go ahead and put them in the chat, and we will do our very best to answer them. And my wristwatch is blowing up here with Facebook notifications and everything. So, guys, how y'all doing this morning?
Had an interesting contact this morning. A lady that decided to put in a flower bed, and they needed a little fill. And there's a pond in back of their property, so they went back and they took fill out of the pond. Did a beautiful job, got it all nice and level, planted all their flowers, and found out that as soon as that fill dried, 9 billion weed seeds popped up. And now they're in the sad position of what do? You can't just go in with any herbicide because anything you spray is going to take out your flowers. And there are a tremendous amount of weed seeds. If you take any of this soil that has been sitting around for years, just sitting there waiting for a little sunlight to germinate those seeds, you're going to find out there are a lot of seeds that are stored. In some cases, I would assume that there's probably 500,000 per square foot or per square yard. It's just unbelievable the number of seeds that can exist. So, but there is a little trick you can use. These little foam paint brushes. Use one of the little foam paint brushes and some Roundup. And if you carefully brush the plants you want to get rid of and don't get any of the Roundup on the plants you're trying to save, you can pretty well get rid of things that way. It takes you a little while, but it's easier than pulling and missing the whole weed. If you don't get everything, if there's any little piece of root left, so many of those things go ahead and regenerate. So just something you keep in your little storehouse of knowledge. That those little foam paint brushes and some Roundup. Sometimes those are kind of a save the day type product. So just remember it and don't necessarily run out and do it every time. But if you need it, it's there.
And that's something people need to remember. That's called your weed seed bank. And it's like an account at the bank. So in your soil, there's weed seeds there. And a lot of them sit underneath the soil, a half inch or an inch or a foot below the surface of the soil. And they are just waiting for that burst of light and some moisture to germinate. So you don't want to be adding to your weed seed bank and bringing in soil from sources that you're not too familiar with, whether it be a pond or somebody else's yard. I know that I've seen with new home construction, they use fill dirt a lot. And that fill dirt can come from anywhere. And a lot of times it brings in invasives, it brings in weeds, it brings in seeds, maybe a lot, maybe a little. You never know until you put that soil down and actually start putting it in a lawn and flower beds and everything else. You find some really unusual things popping up. So all you can do is be diligent pulling those weeds. Very important in your garden. Pull weeds before they grow to the point where they're flowering and setting seeds, because that only adds to your account balance in your weed seed bank. So in your regular checking account, it's a good thing to add to your balance. In the weed seed account, it's not a good thing to add to that balance. You want to keep keep that balance as low as you can.
I remember the little lady that came in, and she had bought a new house, uh, and she was an avid gardener, and she was having terrible problems gardening. So you really need a soil test. So she did the soil test, and she comes in with the results, and what they had used for fill in her backyard, her entire backyard was 8.7 pH. And so, basically you have no material to plant anything in. There's nothing you can grow. And she surprised the heck out of me. She went from here to another addition and bought another house on the way home and put her house up for sale immediately. So
Wow.
she really wanted to garden. She didn't care about the money. She just wanted a backyard that she could do something with. But you're right. Some of these things that they're filling with, 8.7 is that's the highest pH that I've had. That's beyond just straight calcareous. That's pretty much solid limestone.
Pretty much, and I've seen that before also with new home construction, and it's because of the fill dirt, and it's really sad when they build somebody's house and put down a Bahia lawn on soil with sky high pH like that, because the lawn is never going to do well. It's going to look terrible. It's going to get thinner and thinner. It may not completely die out, and if nothing else, you will get weeds that are going to grow on it. There are plants that grow in very high pH soil, but not all plants. So now you're limited with what you can grow. And I see it not really frequently, but sometimes. And Hernando Beach, their pH is all 8.5 because Hernando Beach is built on dredge. So it's sand and really finely ground up seashells.
Yeah. Just too many things to think about, and the plain part about it is, if you live up north, pretty much you just go out and throw a handful of seeds on the ground, and boom, you've got a garden, and it's amazing what grows there. And you do the same thing here, and not much of anything happens. So uh, it
It
really
depends.
has to do with the right plant in the right place. If you're planting things that are wanting to be in Florida, they do the same thing that happens up north. You can go buy a box of native plant flowers and scatter them and grow a pretty nice little field or little meadow of flowers. But if you try the same thing with northern flowers, they just unfortunately are never going to be happy here. So
No.
that's
Uh,
Colby's place. The right plant, right place. That is the number one backbone for the Florida friendly landscaping.
yeah, that's kind of a cornerstone. If you follow that one, you get most of the other ones covered just by extension. Oh, you were talking earlier about applying that herbicide with a one of those sponge brushes. It's important to remember that like on the label of your herbicide, it's going to have a recommended application temperature, and outside of that temperature, you have no guarantee of what that herbicide may do. So it's really important to remember that, hey, if it's 90, 95 degrees outside and you put it down, it probably won't be safe for plants that it might claim that it's safe for. So, just remember that. Everyone's heard me say it, the label's the law. Just pay attention to it, apply it, wait till it cools down, do it at night if you have to. And the other thing real quick was that those seeds that that are under the soil, they can remain viable for years, decades, in some species of plants even centuries,
Yeah.
just waiting on the exact perfect condition to germinate. So I don't know, just remember that these seeds are they're really resilient.
I saw in the news the other day at what was George Washington's home, Mount Vernon.
Mhm.
They found in the basement, they dug up canning jars of canned food, canned fruits. And within that, there were a bunch of seeds. So they have cherry seeds and they're going to germinate them. So they'll be able to grow, not many, but hopefully at least one George Washington cherry tree from his time, because seeds are a lot of them are pretty amazing in how long they can survive.
That's super neat.
But Lori has a question about strawberry plants. She got strawberry plants from a local nursery in December. Should I try to keep them alive during the summer, or can they take the sun and humidity? It depends to a large extent on what variety they are. If it was a northern variety of strawberry, it's not going to survive one of our summers. It's going to get overwhelmed with diseases, insect pests, and very, very good chance that it will not survive the summer. If it was a strawberry plant that's bred to be grown in Florida, it may survive the summer, but commercial growers don't even do that. They get the plants, they put them in the ground in October. So next year, if you're going to get more strawberry plants, try to get them around October-ish and get them in the ground. December is a little late, but you can still get a crop off of them. It's just you're going to get more of a crop if you start earlier. And get them in the ground, and they get their crop, they get their harvest over from Thanksgiving-ish now up until very early spring. Then after that, the plants start to take a nosedive, and they get rid of them and cut their losses, move on to growing something else. So strawberries can survive our summers. I don't know. What would you say, Bernie? 50-50? Less than 50-50 chance?
Less than 50-50.
Yeah. And it's a shame because you can go on Facebook and someone will ask this question, and somebody pipes up with, "Well, I've mine survive every summer and they look great and everything." And then 1,000 other people try it, 999 of them are not successful, and they get discouraged.
If you're growing strawberries in towers from Gainesville north, I think you could probably have maybe a third to a half success rate doing that. But I think probably Gainesville is kind of the line on really being able to do it successfully.
Again, a problem with growing things like strawberries and a lot of other crops well outside of the best, ideal growing season is they start to have problems. And now you're tempted to go out there and spray for insects and spray with the fungicide for diseases. And a lot of times you're not going to win that battle. So you end up spending a lot of money, time, effort, putting a lot of chemicals out in the environment in kind of a losing battle. Because even though we say strawberries can survive, there's other things that people have their hearts set on growing all summer long. And it's like, this isn't going to work out. Lettuce in July and August, it's not going to work out, guys. Unless you're growing it hydroponically or you have a greenhouse, chilling unit. If you grow it in cold water, the temperature of the roots is more important than the air temperature. But if you're just growing it out in your garden, same thing with kale. Yeah, it might survive, but it's going to look terrible. It's going to taste terrible. So there's not much point. We don't want to see people out there fighting a losing battle and using a lot of products in the process of losing that battle.
Yeah, I had a friend that planted tomatoes in a little red wagon, and he would put the little red wagon in an air-conditioned garage at night, pull it out for sun and fun in the daytime, back inside at night, and he had tomatoes year round, which it can be done. It's one of those things
Yep.
that there's always a way, but is it worth it to you? And in his case, he wanted fresh big tomatoes. He had fresh big tomatoes year round, and he had the ideal situation to do it. I was amazed at how well those tomatoes would hold up. They would get really big and bushy, and I assume that he was swapping out one of the plants. There's two plants on the thing, and when they got so big that they really weren't good on the wagon, he would swap out one and start second. So it went year round, but I thought it was just pretty neat.
Yep.
At any time of year, you pull a little red wagon out, and boom, there's your tomatoes. So,
Well, that's pretty creative thinking, and I know more advanced gardeners can experiment with different things, but don't have your heart set on it being successful. It's all an experiment. Because I know they grow lettuce in greenhouses, but they use a water chiller. So the water that they're growing in hydroponically is cold water. And obviously, if you have a greenhouse, you can control the temperature, the humidity, use shade cloth to reduce the amount of sun coming in. That's not free, though. It's going to cost you money. So you have to weigh the pluses and minuses and how badly do you want those tomatoes and lettuce. You can do it, but if you're just out there trying to grow lettuce and kale in your backyard garden like what I have, June, July, and August is too hot to work.
I like the way Disney does it. You know, we used to have this thing where the master gardeners would go over during their whatever their program is, where they would have the flowers and everything, and the master gardeners were in this little building, and out front are impatiens in the sun, full sun, and they're gorgeous. And people would come in and they say, how can they get by with growing them like that? Well, the answer is Disney had those things so that all they had to do was go out and pick up the pot. The whole pot came up. They put them on a rack. They unloaded another rack, and they took those off to a greenhouse to reinvigorate them. And and you go over
all night long, swapping out plants, trimming things to make sure it looks absolutely perfect. Many years ago, I dealt with a nursery that grew flowering annuals, and they were in Lake Mary, and their main customer was Disney. And Disney essentially bought 95% of what they grew. You know, if you're growing the correct impatiens and what the kind of flowers that they want, they'll buy them all. Because at Disney, they're going to work them in somewhere. And if the flowers only last for a couple days, couple weeks, whatever, that's no problem. They buy more. They buy them by the truckload.
You go over to the land and go through their hydroponics. They have probably the nicest hydroponics demonstration garden in the state. I mean, it is beautiful what they're growing. Zucchini that are 18 inches long, and just mammoth, gorgeous plants. Mm-hmm. But there again, they've got control of sunlight. They've got control of the water temperature. They've got control of all the nutrients. They've got control of what plants they're using to start with. And they have a very, very sterile operation where there's no insect problems, and they really keep the fungal problems way down. So, you know, under those kind of situations, you can grow anything. And it wouldn't have made any difference whether it was in Florida or Alaska. It would have been the same result. So
they have a big budget also.
Money does help. Follow the money. That makes a big difference.
So, hey, everybody, if you have any questions, comments, anything, please feel free to go ahead and put them in the chat box. If you ever want to contact Bernie is here on Thursdays when he's well enough to be. It's very rare that he's not here Thursdays, so he's here most of the time. Feel free to call the office. They'll patch you right through. And for anybody who lives in the area in or near Hernando County, our Master Gardeners have a Master Gardener nursery. Here is the address. It's located right behind the Hernando County Fairgrounds on Oliver Street. That's the same street where Hernando County Animal Control is located. And they are there Wednesday mornings and Saturday mornings from 8:30 in the morning until 11 right now. Very important. It's hot outside, so they don't want to be there till noon during the summer. They cut out at 11 a.m., and it's plenty hot by then anyway. So come by bright and early in the morning, Wednesday or Saturday. They have a great selection of native and Florida-friendly plants that are going to grow well right here in Hernando County in Central Florida. And they can answer your questions also. So you have questions about bugs and plants and what's going to do well, go ahead and plan on stopping by and speak with Master Gardeners and letting them help you out.
We have a lot of plants that do well during the growing season and then tend to get killed back to the ground. So, you know, fire bush is a real great example. They tend to grow 6 feet tall during the growing season. They're a hummingbird attractor bush, like magnificent. And yet, every time there's a freeze or a frost, they get zapped to the ground, and it's real easy. You just go in, cut them off level with the ground, and by the end of the summer, they're 7, 8 feet tall again, and they've been attracting things that you want to see, butterflies and birds and hummingbirds, and I think that's typical of so many of the native plants. And if you don't mind the fact that maybe 4 or 5 months out of the year the plant disappears, there are some really nice landscaping plants, and for the most part, our nursery has them. So something to think about.
Yeah, firebush is a great choice because it has such a long flowering period from early spring up until that first frost or freeze. This past winter, at my house, at least in Spring Hill, mine didn't freeze. And the one here at the office didn't freeze either, which means it gets huge. So the one here at the office is going to need a little bit more trimming. Otherwise, it's going to be blocking the sidewalk. The ones I have at home, I mean, I gave them plenty of room to grow. They can get 10 feet tall and 10 feet wide, and that's just fine with me.
Yeah, that's the way it is at our place. And this year they're exceptionally big, and because they didn't have to waste a lot of energy putting in the initial plant, the flowering has just been spectacular. So I love the way the hummingbirds do. One guy will come along and decide that's his bush, and he'll start defending it from all the other hummingbirds. So.
And then they start fighting out there. I mean, you can. It's definitely one of those plants. You can just pull up a chair, sit in the shade, and just watch everything going on, everyone coming and going. You just spend hours out there watching. We get butterflies, bees, everything, hummingbirds. Everybody's going to visit it. So answering Buddy here, I have not heard anything more about the vanilla research project. Is it on my list here? Yeah, that's on my list here. I'll look into that. I think that there is a new researcher working on it, and they're still looking at varieties and field trialing all those varieties here in Florida to find out which grows the best, which doesn't grow well, which tastes the best, which ones don't taste very good. Variety trials can take a long time, especially when almost none of the varieties are named. They just assign them a number. They keep them straight. They're organized. But no, I'll go ahead and look into that, and we'll do something again on vanilla. I saw somebody on Facebook. I can't remember what town they lived in, but they grew vanilla and they grew it down a fence. So they grew it up 6 feet and then down a fence, and it got long enough where it was flowering. So you can grow it. Up there in the Panhandle, it's going to be tough. Even here in Central Florida, it's tough if you get years where you don't get a freeze or, temperatures below a certain point. That's a real bonus when it comes to growing those tropical things. But no, I'll go ahead and look back into that. And Shannon said that the Master Gardener Nursery is her happy place. Unfortunately, this time of year, it's the hot place also.
Just about everywhere outside is.
Yep.
Yeah, my
So,
wife.
Colby, don't you have something coming up tomorrow?
Yes, yes, I do. So tomorrow here at the Utilities Department, we're going to be hosting the first in like a speaker series where we're talking about water conservation issues. This link Bill put up here, if you visit there, you can find a link to the Facebook event for it. No registrations required. We're going to have some refreshments. I'm going to speak. Bill's going to speak. We've got some pretty interesting topics lined up. And really we're trying to, foster a community of people who care about these type of things here in Hernando County. So that's kind of the goal. I think it'll be, like I said, I think it'll be a educational, interesting event to go to. Planning on doing these about every other month as of now, but if you're interested, please visit that link right there. Click on, I think it's the top one right now.
Okay.
And learn something.
Are you guys going to have cookies?
I'm not in charge of the refreshments. I can't speak to that.
Okay. Well, hopefully
You'll have to come and find out.
I'll be there.
They've always had good refreshments at those things. I have attended a lot of them over the years, and I've always come away satisfied. So if the program wasn't that great, the food always was. But for the most part, they've had some really nice programs. So my wife will be there tomorrow.
Okay, finally a question I can answer. Anne Marie asks, is it too late to plant my seeds for Seminole pumpkin? No. Right now is a very, very good time to plant them. Even though you live way up in North Florida, button up against the edge of Georgia, it's not too late. You still have enough time to grow them this year. You could have put them in a bit earlier, but you can still put them in now. And Seminole pumpkin does really well during the summer here in Florida. It is much more disease resistant than traditional northern jack-o'-lantern, orange, pumpkin pie kind of pumpkins. They're hard to grow here. They get a lot of disease problems. They're little disease magnets. So Seminole pumpkin and calabaza. And if anybody's interested in growing calabaza, we did a class on that, and it is recorded, and it is on Hernando County Government's YouTube channel. So don't kill yourself writing down this long link here. Just go to YouTube, go to the little box up at the top with a little magnifying glass, and type in Hernando County Government, and go to it. If you go to their YouTube channel, Florida Friendly Landscape has a playlist, and Extension has a playlist. If you look under the Extension playlist, we have a recorded class with Dr. Maru with University of Florida on calabaza, and he is doing research on different varieties of calabaza. And once again, it's one of those where there's not a whole lot of really specific names. There's, Colby might have calabaza seeds. This is a variety he's been growing for years. And Bernie has a variety he's been growing for years, and they look totally different. One's a lot more productive. One gets much bigger squash. So trying to figure out the varieties, strains, everything else. Because they grow commercially here in Florida. If you go to a grocery store, especially if you go to a Hispanic grocery store and look in their produce department, They have calabaza. It's also, the common name is Cuban pumpkin. So it's a hard squash, very tasty. You can look online for recipes, and grows really, really well here in Central Florida and will not die quickly like pumpkins and butternut and Hubbard and all those northern squashes do. They are really, really hard to grow here. And Seminole pumpkin is a great substitute for pumpkin pie. It is a winter squash, so you can use it for all those different winter squash recipes and uses.
You know, the thing that kind of gives people a wrong impression is we're growing so many things in Florida that shouldn't be grown here just because we can grow them out of season and get a lot of money for them. So uh, it's like blueberries. People look at all the blueberry patches and think, oh, there's nothing to growing blueberries. Everybody grows blueberries here. Well, you know, they don't grow in the ground. They're grown in a mulch. You have to have multiple varieties. They have a fairly short life. Uh, they have a lot of problems, and the people that are growing them are using tricks like they go in and they defoliate the plants at a certain time, so that all the plants are starting from the very same spot in time, so that they'll all produce berries at exactly the same time. And all they care about is this, I don't know, what, 45-day period that they have blueberries that nobody else does. And we're selling blueberries at a profit. And after that, it's you pick whatever. These things are junk. We don't care anymore. It's amazing, and people get the wrong impression. It's Florida grows so many tomatoes. Well, Florida grows tomatoes in South Florida because they can grow them out of season. They aren't necessarily very good tomatoes, uh, but they give us a product when nobody else has the product. So uh, just be sure that the things that you want to grow uh, are actually good products. You know, citrus was a wonderful thing. You could grow an orange here, and it would be a wonderful orange. Citrus greenings kind of fouled that up, but that was a good product. Tomatoes, not so much. We don't grow the great northern tomatoes here, and the tomatoes we do grow have a lot of problems. You know, I always tell these people if you get to where you can grow tomatoes successfully every year, you've become a really great gardener because that's just not in the cards. And uh, it's the same way with so many of these products. They're only grown here because they're grown out of season. So the trick is find the things that grow the well here and concentrate on them and get the things from up north that really have a longer up north season that are much better than what you're going to produce here. You're not going to produce heirloom tomatoes in Florida.
Generally, no. It's really difficult. Takes a
But you're
lot
not
of.
going to grow bananas in Illinois. You're
Mhm.
not going to grow loquats in uh, New Jersey. You know, there's things that do well here uh, that you should really concentrate on. And just because you grew up when you were a kid up north, that's not necessarily a good recommendation for wanting to grow it here.
Yeah, you're probably not going to grow rhubarb in Central Florida.
No,
No. Sorry, guys.
but you can go to the store and rhubarb isn't all that expensive, and you put it in a strawberry pie. And we
Hmm.
have some pretty good strawberries, and makes it a really great meal. The heck with
And
the important food. Let's just have strawberry pie with rhubarb.
there are a lot of different root crops that many people might not be familiar with that you can grow here. So Anne Marie asks about purple sweet potato, there's a lot of different types of sweet potatoes and yams, and then when you throw in the South and Central America root crops, things like cassava, also known as yucca, there's a lot of different ones. Um, I think yucca is great. That's very important, especially with Cuban cuisine and a lot of other South and Central American. If it's cooked properly, it's very, very good. Um, but if you're looking for a purple variety of sweet potato that's purple on the outside, and when you cut it open, purple on the inside, those are Japanese sweet potatoes. So try
I
looking
thought
them up.
I thought Japanese sweet potatoes. I thought they were the they were like the murasaki, and then they were white on the inside. I thought the Japanese or the purple yams were purple on the inside. I could be wrong. I'm digging really deep here for
Yeah,
that.
I'm not sure because at the store just the other day I saw red yams, but I've never seen the purple. Like I said, there's so much variety in it that I've never seen all of them either live at the grocery store or looking them up. Um, but I know that there are types of Japanese sweet potatoes that are purple on the outside, purple on the inside. Um, Obviously, red yams. They were red on the outside. I didn't cut one open, so I'm not going to swear to what size, what color was on the inside. Um, they're all good. They can all be healthy for you. For all of them, if you look online, you'll find lots and lots of different recipe ideas. And I like to give it a shot, and either I like it or I don't. If I don't like it, probably not going to make it again. If I really like it, then I have a new favorite I'm going to make again. So they're all good for you. Um,
Huh. What I've determined there is that there are Murasaki Japanese sweet potatoes. If it's purple on the outside, white on the inside, they're called Japanese sweet potatoes. They're from Louisiana. And then if you then there's other types of Japanese sweet potatoes that have Japanese names, um, that are purple on the outside, purple on the inside. They're really bright purple. It's actually kind of cool looking. So
uh
I do your research if you're looking for something specific.
I just Googled it and looked under all recipes, and they have information here on different varieties. There's one that Stokes purple sweet potatoes. They look purple on the outside and purple on the inside. Here's Okinawan and Molokai sweet potatoes. One's purple inside, the other one's kind of purple and white inside. There's some from Hawaii, there are ones from Okinawa. It's really one of those things where there's just such a huge amount of variety that you would normally never think of. Most people, you say sweet potatoes, they say, those orange things that I eat for Thanksgiving. And that's all they know about it. And there's like, well, no, there's, dozens, if not more, varieties. Um, Now you guys are going to want to make me order a whole bunch of them online and just grow like 20 different types next summer.
It seems like there's 40 varieties of Japanese sweet potatoes, of different
Uh,
kinds, and they're all different colors.
and if they all take the heat as well as regular grocery store, uh, what's the name? Beauregard, I think. There's a couple different varieties that you would normally get at the grocery store. If they take the heat that well, then you can grow all of them here in Florida and keep growing them and trying them until you find one that you really like and then grow even more of it. And then learn how to can it after you grow a whole bunch of them.
Yeah.
So
I've
see, we're
always
trying to
wondered.
take people all the way from what's the name of that program that Lily told me about? Seed to Supper. I think I'm going to do a Seed to Supper program. I didn't think up that title. I'm swiping it. Sorry, but all the way from understanding where you live. We live in Central Florida, and what'll grow here, and what you need to do to go all the way from planting to seed to growing it to harvesting it to trying it to make sure that you like it to canning it, freezing it, preserving it, and then doing it all again next year.
I was wondering, if how the climate, right, of Japan is, especially if because you said, oh, if they handle the heat very well, as Japan is like they're not, it's not super big, but I'm pretty sure, latitude it's a little bit higher than we are, and it's not a desert, so I. I looked it up. Apparently, they have 4 seasons, which means it's probably not as hot there as it is in Florida. They have some subtropical areas, I guess, in the south because there's all those chains of islands.
Yeah.
Interesting.
They're about as far north of the equator as North Florida is. And if you start talking about the very southern
Okinawa
Japanese
and
islands,
such.
where's Okinawa? Okay, Okinawa is quite far south. Okinawa is almost just a tiny bit north of Taiwan.
Mm-hmm.
And Taiwan is the equivalent of the Caribbean. I know Taiwan, they grow a lot of, they grow 20 different varieties of dragon fruit there.
Mm-hmm.
You can go to their open air markets and buy all kinds of tropical stuff.
Yeah.
So
not to get off on a tangent or anything, but if you
that is getting off on a tangent.
The world, like the globe projections, like you'll look at something and think that it's the same size as something else, and it is just so far off. The further away you get from the equator, everything gets distorted. So you have to really look up the lengths and distances of things to know, because it's really hard looking at a map or a globe to know exactly how big or how far away anything is.
And you look at a map and it's, well, those two countries are really close together. It's only that much. They're only that far apart. Okay, guys, looks like it's that time to be thinking about those final questions and tossing them in. Don't wait till the very last minute here. And if something occurs to you after we're all done here, there is my email if anybody wants to contact me. And if you want to know about our upcoming classes, we have a freestanding webpage, Hernando Extension, all one word.com, that you can go to. And normally, all the classes that we schedule and put on Facebook will show up there. Colby, when you make an event in Facebook, you need to shoot me an email so that I know. With Facebook, I have to go all the way into your events now to see the little notification. Do you want to share this? Or you were invited to share it. Click here to do so. Before, it would just show up in my notifications, so I would see it right away and click yes.
Mm-hmm.
And in 2 weeks, it's probably going to change again. Facebook changes so quickly with those things.
Yeah, I need to make sure I'm keeping you in the loop there, like even more in the loop. So just reminding you to do it on Facebook, because I mean, after I put it up there, I kind of don't think about it unless someone asks me a question.
I forget too, so I need to invite you to share all of mine. I haven't had much scheduled going on. We will begin doing classes again very soon. Different vegetable gardening, different edible classes with, before you know it, summer will be winding down. We'll be heading towards fall, time to start getting prepared, planning, ordering, digging out weeds, stuff like that. You could just follow us on Facebook. Our short name is Hernando EXT. Teresa does a fantastic job keeping that updated. If it had been left just up to me, I post on there, but between the two of us, we got it covered. Once again, there's our Master Garden Nursery. That is their address. And go by on Wednesday morning or Saturday morning to check out what they have. If it's going to pour rain, they may be closed. So that's always depending on the weather. And If you want to email Colby directly, there is his direct email. See, the problem is y'all's emails are just so long, I can never remember them.
I listen, and this is the alias. This is the easy to remember one.
Oh, yeah,
So
yeah. The other one is
yeah.
.fl.us.gov. I don't know what.
And it's important to remember with my email specifically, if you ever email anyone at the county, theirs is just first letter of their first name, last letter of their last name. We have another employee here who worked here before me who has a very similar name. So make sure you don't forget that O, or you will be sending an email to someone who cannot answer your question.
It'll go into Internet Wonderland. Who knows where it's going to go? And Alessandra says that, she has a big problem with mealybugs. Help. Insecticidal soap.
Yep.
Everybody wants to use neem oil. Everybody thinks neem oil is like this magical silver bullet, will control everything. Neem oil is sketchy. Some days it works really well. Other days it doesn't work really well. With it being really sunny and hot, any kind of oil might damage your plants. It might, scorch the heck out of them in the full sunlight. Go to the store or online. You can just go on Amazon. I guess I could plug Amazon. Go on Amazon and order insecticidal soap and mix it according to the directions. It works great on all those really tiny, soft-bodied insects like mealybugs. And your plants can handle a certain number of mealybugs. There's lots of other beneficial insects and parasitoids that are going to feed on them. But if you have a plant that's overwhelmed with mealybugs, you may need to treat once or twice with insecticidal soap. Kind of knock that population down, then let nature take care of the rest. And then don't be so OCD that every time you see one mealybug, you're going to rush out there and spray. Your plants, if they're otherwise healthy, they can handle a couple mealybugs. Just not a million.
Yeah, the thing to remember when you're using insecticidal soap is that the bugs don't have lungs like we do. So they're breathing through their skin. And the soapy water entering the little spores in their skin really affects their breathing. What you're doing is you end up suffocating them. The soap doesn't actually like squeeze their little things off, but it does some physiological effect that stops their breathing. So you have to remember that because this only works if you get it in their little pores, you have to be able to spray on the insect. So if you have mealybugs and they're on the stems and under the leaves, and you go out and you spray the tops of the leaves, you're not going to get very much activity. So, I've had problems with mealybugs. I always kept the little spray bottle of insecticidal soap by the door. If I went out, if I was having a problem, I would spray it maybe twice a day and 2 or 3 days a week. And by the end of the week, it almost always was totally cleaned up. And the other nice thing about it is because it's soap, when you get rain, it gives you a little cleaning effect on the plant also. But remember, what you're trying to do is block those little spores. Are those stomata? Anyway, the little breathing apparatus.
Spiracles on an insect.
Spiracles, there we go.
I couldn't remember.
And
stomata's on leaves.
Insecticidal soap is potassium salts of fatty acids, I believe, which is different from dish soap. Dish soap, use on your dishes in your kitchen. Insecticidal soap, used for insects out in your garden. They are different things. You don't want to use insecticidal soap to clean pots and pans.
No.
I'm wondering what would happen if you did that. You don't want to do that. So we'll keep it at that. And dishwashing liquid, all depending on the brand, the concentration, how hot it is, how sunny it is, can be very damaging to your plants. You don't want to find that out the hard way. And neem oil this time of year, if you spray it on plants that are out in the full sun, you may fry the heck out of them. It's going to look like you turned a flamethrower on the plants. They will turn brown and crispy. So be real careful with oils. It's getting sunny and hot out there right now.
Yeah.
Cindy, you are correct. Next Thursday is July 4th, so we will not be here. But hopefully everybody will be back the week after that. And I will work really hard to make sure that somebody is here. Not sure it's necessarily going to be me, but we will have somebody here. And Cindy, you're very welcome. Everybody else, you're very welcome. And Anne-Marie. Green tea bush, are you actually growing the camellia that you would take tea, drinkable, edible tea from? I know that UF looked at that. Bernie, did you ever see anything about that? UF looking at growing tea in Florida?
Well, they had 3 research centers that were doing work, but I never saw the final result. They may not have the final results yet. That may still be ongoing.
You know what? I'm going to look up and try to figure out who's working on that and have them give a class. And I've done classes in the past on pest control, basically what you want to have in your toolbox to control what kind of pests. I'll plan on doing that again this fall. And a vanilla update here.
Your chemistry fact of the day for everybody watching is that soap, while it's a lot of referring to what you wash yourself with or wash your dishes with, it's actually a classification of chemical compound. There are all different manner of soaps, most of which are not used for cleaning anything, and that's a salt with fatty acid and a metal. Normally it's sodium or potassium. So that's your chemical fact of the day, only because I've taken organic chemistry in the last 3 years.
I understand chemistry, but I know well enough that if I'm teaching on a topic that involves a lot of pH, mostly nutrients in soils is when this comes up, I always have to ask, are there any retired chemists in the audience? Because if there are, you need to be careful how you describe and present things. Otherwise, they're going to call you on it.
Mm-hmm.
But I try to put it in terms that people can understand.
Yeah.
So the chemist knows pH one way. Everybody else, if they don't know anything about it, to explain it to them so it actually has some kind of benefit, you need to explain it a little bit different. So
and they're going to call you out. And it's like, practically, what does that mean? Nobody knows.
So I respect the chemists, but
it's hard.
Y'all can be tough in the crowd.
My fiance is taking not a STEM major at all, is taking a biology class to meet her science requirement. And I went, and they're in the organic chemistry. They touch on stuff in the beginning, and I'm looking at this like, oh my goodness, this is really it's really difficult what they're asking her to learn. For someone who's a communication major, I was like, man, pulling my hair out over it. I was struggling a little bit.
Well, guys, it looks like we're coming up on pretty much just about that time. So let's go ahead and wrap it up for the morning. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. I have my list of potential classes I need to start looking into here to give this fall. So as always, stay tuned. Follow us online. Keep coming back. We'll be here. Not next week, though. Next week is 4th of July. We won't be here. And thank you so much for tuning in. If you guys didn't keep coming back, we probably wouldn't be coming back either. They'd be having us do all kinds of other stuff. We'd be busy chasing bugs or writing reports or verifying charges or doing paperwork. And this beats the heck out of paperwork as far as I'm concerned. So thanks again, guys. We will see you all again in 2 weeks after the 4th of July. Until then, everybody have a great holiday. Everybody be safe. Everybody stay hydrated. Don't spend too much time in the sun unless it's in the pool, which definitely helps. And we'll see you again in 2 weeks. So bye, guys.
Goodbye.